Hello there. Welcome back to the first official dev diary for our core expansion this year, Cons of the Steppe. For those who did not see it, we first talked about this DLC back last month with Dev Diary 162, Step by Step, so we recommend watching that first. Today we will discuss Tributaries, Confederations, and Raid Intents. All three topics were mentioned in the previous Dev Diary, but we will discuss them at length in this one, so let's settle in like a migrating nomad and get started. The team has gone through an intense iteration period based on both feedback collected internally and the comments we received from our previous Dev Diary. Many changes have been thus made, and we are sure we are not done with it yet. However, here's a small list of some of the most significant tweaks we've done based on your feedback. A new base tributary type has been available for non-nomads. Concerns about the nomadic economy have been addressed by adding a monthly income for nomads based on their herd size, symbolizing the trade of meat, hides, etc. A new game rule has been added to include nomadic governments in the Sahel, Arabia, the Horn of Africa, Sami, and Karelia regions. We've tweaked the borders of the steppe and characters who should be nomadic in all bookmarks. More than we can list here, screenshots will be shared in our following dev diaries. We've added a culture and faith specific to your nomadic capital, different from your own. Adventurers can now become nomads if they move into a herder's holding. We've also expanded what we originally scoped for raising. We've extended and altered the effects of some seasons in our new seasonal system. And we have made it possible to grow your herd if you hold lands outside of the steppe, giving those counties fertility if held by a nomad. One of the new features we're introducing with Cons of the Steppe, and the free update that goes along with it, are tributaries. Vast nomadic realms like the Cumans, Khitans, and Khazars were not kept together by a tiered system of formal vassalage and pledges of fealty, nor were they delineated by culture or religion. Instead, the harsh realpolitik of the steppe applied. Whoever could muster the greatest capacity for destruction on their neighbors proved themselves worthy of tribute, in exchange for the privilege of not being trampled underhoof. Modeling this type of subject relationship properly was the impetus for the tributary feature. Let's back up a bit and discuss some fundamentals first though, because tributaries aren't just a nomad thing. While tributaries are similar to vassals in some respects, they represent a whole new type of unequal diplomatic relationship in the game. As a result, many game elements that formerly referred to vassals now refer to subjects instead. Subjects can either be vassals or tributaries, and these subtypes adhere to different rules. As with vassal contracts, there can be different types of tributary contracts with varying degrees of obligations. In most cases, these terms can be renegotiated. Tributaries can be seen as a more independent subject type compared to vassals. While in most cases they share the map color and realm name with their suzerain, they can act and be interacted with independently, even when it comes to warfare. Most tributary types can also be created through peaceful means, by a sovereign ruler pledging tribute to a nomadic realm in exchange for a guarantee to not be attacked by them, or through a nomadic ruler demanding tribute from a neighboring realm. Agreements of tribute are usually perpetuated across generations, but may change in nature over time or be more easily broken when the contract changes hands. Nomadic tributaries are what you will encounter most frequently in Cons of the Steppe. These consist of nomadic realms, or spineless herders, who have pledged tribute to a stronger nomadic ruler on their border. They will pay a part of their herd in tribute on a regular basis, and some of the prestige they gain will also be conferred upon their suzerain. In exchange for tribute, they enjoy a great deal of independence from their suzerain and will not be outright attacked or raided by them. They can even have tributaries of their own. Settled tributaries are non-nomadic realms, such as feudal princes, tribes, or clans, who have yielded to a bordering nomadic ruler. Like their nomadic tributary counterparts, they will pay tribute on a regular basis, but instead of herd, they will provide gold and levies. Both these types of tributary contracts are inherited across generations, but they also have quite a bit of leeway in simply ceasing payments, if they are ready to face the consequences of insulting their suzerain, that is. This is most likely to happen if a nomadic suzerain prove themselves weak in some way, and therefore unworthy of tribute by the laws of the steppe, such as losing a war or suffering a chaotic Kulrultai succession. Once tributaries opt to stop sending gifts to their suzerain, the suzerain can choose to attack them to recover control, or let them go try to make their own destiny without the suzerain's protection. To try to keep this from happening, nomadic suzerains can either be lenient with their contract conditions, or leverage their dread to demand obedience of their tributaries. A third type of subjugated tributary has also been added, which has no direct relation to nomads. This is a tributary type obligated to pay a lot of gold and a small amount of prestige to their suzerain in exchange for their suzerain's protection from outside invasion. If attacked, a subjugated tributary can call their suzerain in to defend them, and if the suzerain refuses, their tributary obligations are annulled. Any non-nomadic realm can create this type of tributary through the Bring Under Tribute casus belli, enabling the extortion of neighboring protectorates through sheer military might. This contract does not get inherited by the suzerain's heir upon their death, but also cannot be voluntarily broken. If the tributary wishes to break free of their obligations prior to their suzerain's death, then they will have to fight them for independence. It's important to note that it's possible to modify the terms of a tributary contract, just like a vassal contract. For example, nomads can negotiate for protection by their suzerains in exchange for higher tribute payments. If you and your tributary are blood brothers, you can even negotiate a guarantee that they will follow you on all military adventures, offensive as well as defensive. Another aspect of tributaries of non-nomadic realms is that they can provide new men-at-arms types to their suzerain. In keeping with the flexible and heterogeneous nature of steppe warfare, nomad rulers are able to recruit men-at-arms from both tributaries and vassals as if they were their own. Since the men-at-arms are recruited from other realms, rather than an additional cost of herd to represent the development of more advanced mounted units, this costs a premium in gold to entice the foreigners to join up with the Khan's formidable horde. Visually, tributary realms will typically adopt the map color and name of their suzerain to clarify the relationship between them. Modders might be interested to know that this behavior can be changed in scripts depending on the subject contract. You can make tributary types that do not inherit the suzerain's color or name, or just one of them as well. Since tributaries inherit all the functionality of the vassal contract system, with a few extensions, they are very flexible and capable of modeling a great deal of unequal relationships between realms and rulers. There's a fair chance you will see more tributary types and dynamics added to the game in the future, and the system is fully available to modders to play with as well. But how would you deal with these massive, aggressive nomadic realms as a smaller nomad who just wants to live a laid-back, peaceful nomadic lifestyle? One avenue to that is what we'll discuss now. Do you ever tire of lusting after power? When you jump into a game as a meek little count, do you wish friends and neighbors would stand together with you against the masters of the world? Do you want something new to do as a tribal character? Say no more but the sacred words, the Oath of Confederation. In short, confederations are a new way for nomads and tribals to feel safe while initially building their power, playing tall, etc. It's also a bit of an extra challenge for those looking to easily gobble up areas of the map that lack a mighty king or emperor. The inspiration for confederations came from a visit to beautiful Tallinn, Estonia, which we very highly recommend visiting, and a fascinating conversation with a very learned scholar in medieval Baltic history, as well as a visit to the Great Guildhall Museum. Therein, an exhibit asked the question, why did Estonia not become a kingdom? It's an interesting question with at least a few answers. In a sense, the Estonian tribes did actually have kings, but these were temporary war leaders or spiritual figures, and they did not serve to unite all of the tribes together into one lasting political entity. They are mentioned as stubborn figures of resistance in the Christian chronicles of conquest. This kind of defensive decentralization seemed new for Crusader Kings 3, and we immediately wanted to represent it in our game. And of course, there are the steppe confederations of history, the Kamag Mongol, the Kemek Kipchaks, the Magyars, and so on, to consider and draw from as well. Now let's go through the confederating process and discuss. The first step is a decision that enables you to offer confederation to other rulers. Its warnings are to be taken seriously. You will likely have to leave your confederation if you want to increase your standing in the world, through means like title creation, migration, dominance, or others. You may also have to leave your confederation if you wish to enrich yourself by raiding or attacking your fellow weaklings. But who can make a confederation? First, you have to be standing on your own, and you can't be standing very tall. These same restrictions apply to all prospective confederates. Confederations in Crusader Kings 3 will be fleeting, ephemeral things, and focus largely on deterring the depredations of powerful neighbors. Thus, they will almost always be created in response to major powers being up their borders. It's been really cool to watch conquerors and great kings arise, and as they do, confederations spring up along their underbellies like nests of rats or colonies of fire ants. There is now a third, sometimes viable alternative to submit or die. The possible faith hostility trigger also works really nicely along the borderlands between pagan tribals and reformed faiths. It means the former can often be seen making the Confederation defensive arrangement to resist the brutal tide of history. Given that confederations are available across the map to both nomads and tribal characters, related content is laced with conditional localization and effects to keep things from feeling too inappropriate. That said, this isn't a content-heavy feature. Development on confederations instead focused on making it an effective new mechanic. The character interaction Offer Confederation, unlocked by the Call for Confederation decision or by Confederation membership, is how this Brothers in Arms Last Stand style event comes to pass. Notice that, because migration removes members from the Confederation, there are incentives to stay put for a little bit longer. AI should also be more reluctant to migrate than usual, at least for a few years, if they're part of a confederation. Your level of investment in your confederation can make a big difference in its strength. Herd, prestige, and hooks can all be sacrificed to make valid members more willing to join your ranks. Confederations aren't a title, however. Their closest equivalent is an alliance or truce, thus they live in the diplomacy space of the character view. Here you can see all members of the Confederation. The Chemic Confederation is a culture-based name, which happens when both of the first members are of the same culture. When they aren't of the same culture, the Confederation will be named after the founder's de jure duchy. For example, the Seme Confederation, the Cargassia Confederation, and others. On the map, confederations will look similar to the new Tributary system. Their individual realm names are replaced by the overall confederation, and their map colors are blended towards the main confederation color, which is based on the founder's capital. You may also notice that the members of a confederation remain rather unevenly sized. That's because only independent, top-level rulers are members of the confederation, and their vassals, if they have any, are not. When a confederation member is attacked is when the organization really comes into its own. All members are automatically added to the war as defenders. This can result in a pretty potent nest of bees that the aggressor has just poked. Accordingly, the combined strength of a confederation is shown when opening the Declare War screen on one of its members, and the AI should be appropriately hesitant to attack strong confederations. Note that this only applies to the members' defensive wars. They cannot call on the confederation when they themselves declare offensive wars. While the AI will usually give the confederation at least a few years of their time, players are quite free to strike off on their own at any point. However, this will cost a higher prestige penalty during the first couple years of Confederation membership. The AI waiting for this decision is heavily dependent on circumstances. Chief among these is the presence of large nearby threats that necessitate Confederation. The result is that, where confederations are needed, they should prove much more lasting and resilient, and when they are no longer needed, they should often quickly disband. And there it is, confederations. We hope this run-through has helped clear up some of the misconceptions surrounding the feature. And remember, the Crusader Kings player who stands alone, dies alone. Call up a friend right now and ask if they'd fucking die for you. Post results in the comments. We discussed raid intents in the previous dev diary with a small work-in-progress screenshot. It's time to expand on what we said then. First of all, we should talk about loot. As you all know, we've had loot in the game for quite a while. Gold you can take from a settlement as you raid them as a tribal ruler or a pagan character, which you then bring back home to turn into gold and prestige. We haven't changed the core mechanic of loot, but we have disconnected it slightly from purely being gold, now that you have more ways of using it. With raid intents, we now have ways of turning that loot into other things, to symbolize your aims as you were raiding foreign lands. Pictured now is the new raid intent screen for nomads, after a small art pass and after we've added some proper names. Now, let's look at the default raid intent for nomadic rulers, pillage. It's a fairly straightforward calculation. If you bring home 100 loot, you will get 100 gold and 150 herd out of it when you return to your own borders. Most of the other raid intents have some kind of separate side effects in addition to their base calculation, so let's take a look at some of them. Nomads were known for raiding far and wide in the Middle Ages, with the Hungarian raiders, for example, bringing home loot from all across Europe. With the Adventure Raid Intent, it will take a bit longer to raid each settlement, but you can carry a significantly larger amount of loot with you, and you take no hostile county attrition. It should be noted that within the steppe, Nomad raiders will not take any hostile county attrition regardless of raid intent, but they will regularly take attrition outside of it. Plunder symbolizes that you aren't necessarily just taking anything, but trying to find the most valuable things to take. It will take significantly longer to raid every single settlement under this raid intent. Still, the loot conversion as you get home is considerably better, and you have a chance to learn innovations of a culture as you raid a settlement if they know something you do not. For those less interested in the loot itself, but rather other side effects, you might want to take a look at the Capture Raid Intent to significantly increase the chances of capturing someone as you raid a settlement. It's great if you're looking to ransom someone. And last but not least, you have the opportunity to destroy. It's an opportunity for nomads to increase their prestige, as they don't get any prestige from other raid intents, as well as their dread, which is far more important for nomads. It also destroys buildings and development in settlements that they raid. One thing to mention is that we don't only have raid intents for nomads, but for other raiders as well. Regular raiders also have access to the Terrorize raid intent, so feel free to bring destruction to your enemies no matter which flavor of uncivilized you are. They also have access to Pillage, but in a slightly different form. Like current functionality, you simply change your loot to Gold and Prestige, and for Vikings, they have access to a slightly modified version of the Adventure Intent. If you want to raid your way down to Constantinople and then back home again, feel free to take this to bring all this loot back with you. Now, on the other side of the coin, you can destroy the raiders as they enter your lands, but we've also made one small adjustment so you can protect yourself a bit against any incoming threat. We've increased the hostile raid time reduction in the building, so you have more time to respond to incoming threats. It now also reduces the chances of special raid intents firing as expected. In other words, it reduces the improvements from the Capture Raid Intent, minimizes the chance of the Terrorize Raid Intent ruining your lands, and for the Plunder Raid Intent to steal any of your innovations. Upgrading the building will improve the effect and block Raid Intent special effects from happening outright. In other words, something to keep in mind if you experience a lot of raiding your lands. And that's it for this week. Next week, we plan to revisit migrations and the nomadic government as a whole, so we hope to see you again then. Go forth and conquer. And remember to like and subscribe to this channel for all of the latest dev diaries for Crusader Kings 3.